Hey guys, okay, we're going to do the video for 1-05, more triangle congruency and review. I skipped 1-03 because this is where we really want you. So if you are having trouble on 1-03, you could watch this video. Okay, here we go. We're talking about triangle congruency, and you've probably seen this before. We have these things here called postulates. Postulates is just a word for a proven theory. That's what that's saying. Every time we set something up, it works the same way. Mathematically, we can call it a postulate. That's all. All right, don't get intimidated by that word. But you've seen these before, and I know they could be tricky to read, so I'm going to go through them with you. So we could prove that a triangle is congruent by angle, side, angle. So this is what it's saying. That this angle and this angle are congruent, this side and this side are congruent. That's what that little slash means. Then this angle and this angle are congruent. So we have angle, side, angle. This here is side, angle, side. So I have a side and a side congruent, an angle and an angle, then a side and a side. Side, angle, side. Notice how I'm tapping these to make sure. Because if I put, let's say, this angle out here, it's a different postulate, okay? And it necessarily might not be one at all. I have angle, angle, side here. So the side is on the outside, angle, angle. Let's compare these two. Here, the side is in the middle. Here, the side is on the outside. That's a very, very easy mistake to make. Then I have side, side, side. Just notice that all these are marked off. That side, and a number of hash marks is saying that like this 3 is congruent to that 3. This 2 is congruent to that 2, and that 1 is congruent to that 1. If that kind of helps. That's all it's saying. So it has got a side here and a side here that's congruent, a side here and a side here that's congruent, and a side here and a side here that's congruent. Now, hypotenuse leg. Notice we have the right angle here. And you're going to say, wait a minute, these are right triangles too. And that's not necessarily the case because I did not tell you. You cannot make the assumption that this is a right triangle here. You can't make the assumption this is a right triangle if we're not telling you that it is. Be careful with that. I try to be pretty careful about making sure that that right angle mark is there when it needs to be. But generally speaking, you need to have that. You need to know for certain. It needs to tell you that this is a right triangle in order to be able to use hypotenuse leg, or else the answer is wrong. All right, and this is the hypotenuse, the longest side of the triangle, and then these are the legs. So I have a congruent leg and a congruent leg, then the hypotenuse and the hypotenuse. Now, the last thing we're going to show you here that doesn't look like it has anything to do with triangles, but remember, we're proving that these triangles are congruent. We have to discuss that. We have to make a statement and back it up with a fact. And this diagram helps you do that. So, let's start with this. This arrow here means parallel lines. So this and this are parallel. That's what they mean. Let me make this clear. Parallel, not congruent. Parallel, not congruent. You can't assume that they're congruent here. You can only assume that they're parallel. That means they will never touch. Then what I have is I have this line crossing through here. That is called a transversal. That's a transversal. Now, as a result of this transversal cutting through these parallel lines, I have a set of alternate interior angles. We call them alternate interior angles because they're alternating on each side of the line and they're inside of the diagram. All right, in fact, I'll just point out real quick, if they were out here, they're on the opposite sides of the transversal and they're outside of the diagram. Not a big deal. I just want you to recognize, all right, or I want you to associate that when we have parallel lines with a transversal, alternate interior angles have to be present. They have to be there. All right, let's look at a couple of quick examples. I got 2 here. Okay, first one. Are these triangles congruent? So, yeah, we could just say yes, but we really don't know. we have to prove that they're congruent. Just saying yes isn't helpful. You have to back up what you're saying with facts. So that's what we're going to do. For starters, I know, and I'm going to make the little t-table here real quick. All right, and I'm going to say I know because. So I know that AB is congruent to DE. AB is congruent to DE. And I know that because they told us. So I'll say they told us. They told us. You could say it says so. You could say whatever you like, as long as you're making clear that I know that. And now I also noticed that I have parallel lines here. So I have a parallel line going this way and this way. Then I also have transversals. So now there's a lot of stuff I can do here. I have alternate interior angles. Here's one set. Then I have alternate interior angles here. Here's another set. Notice I put 2 lines on that. That's how I'm saying that this and this are congruent. Lastly, I have vertical angles here, but since we really didn't talk about them in the diagram, I'm going to pass them up. If you wanted to use them, that's totally cool. Whenever we have lines that make an X, this angle and that angle are congruent. They're vertical angles. I'm just going to use this because this is enough. I could say that these triangles are congruent because of angle, side, angle. I could say that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I'm going to say that I know that angle A and angle E are congruent. I say angle A is congruent to angle E. Alright, and I'm going to say because they're alternate interior angles. Now, the one big difference between what we're doing now in geometric proofs is you actually have to state that you know that these lines are parallel. But because we just want to kind of introduce you to this, we're going to slide through this. Next, I'm also going to say that angle B and angle D are congruent. Congruent to angle D because of angle, side, angle. From there, I know that the triangle is congruent because triangle ABC and EDC are congruent because of angle, side, angle. Now, this is the ultimate goal, is to get you to this t-table, because that's what geometric table proofs look like. But if you're writing this out in some kind of sentences for right now, that's cool, as long as you understand where the properties are coming from. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, so here we want to see if these are congruent. Well, right off the bat, it's telling me that DA is congruent to BA. It tells me that by those lines right there. And I'm going to say because it says so. There. It also telling me that DC and BC are congruent. And that's also saying because it says so. I'm going to write it again. Sometimes when you know what you're talking about, never hurts to repeat a fact enough times. But now, I have side here. What I have to look for is I have to look for either another angle or another side, because my 2 options are side, or side, angle, side. That's it. Okay, so I have no evidence whatsoever here that any of these angles are congruent. It doesn't tell me. In a regular geometric proof, it might. Here, I don't have any of that, but what I do have is I have this line here in the middle. And that line is congruent for both triangles. So I could say that that is congruent to itself. And that is AC is congruent to AC. And I'm just going to say, for right now, that that is a shared side, or something like that. There is a term called the reflexive property. It's called the reflexive property. A lot of kids want to say reflective. But for right now, I want you to get it into the habit of just making a statement and backing it up. Making a statement and backing it up. It's a good way to argue. So now I'm going to say here, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle ADC, and that is side, side, side. Alright guys, that's this video. Be patient with this process. It takes a while to get. I hope you found this video helpful.